In this video, I'm gonna show you one simple dietary switch you can make that will make you lose weight guaranteed. Listen, nothing is certain in this world except for death, taxes, and what I'm about to show you today. And if you're familiar with the 80-20 principle, if you pull just this one lever and focus on this 20%, it can get you 80% of your weight loss goals. It's that powerful. Take whatever diet you're eating, like whatever it is. You obviously like certain foods. That's why I'm not a big fan of cookie cutter meal plans, because everyone has their personal preferences. Like depending on your ethnicity or whatever culture you grew up in, people like certain fruits and vegetables and certain meats. That's fine. So do yourself a favor and make this one dietary switch starting today. Just take out the refined and ultra-processed stuff from your diet, because there's definitely a certain amount of ultra-refined food that you're eating. Some of them could even come with a health halo from decades of marketing and indoctrination to make people think that it's healthy. Take margarine and heart-healthy vegetable oils, for example. We've been led to believe that they're healthy for decades, but they cause nothing but harm to the human body. It could also be obvious culprits like cereal, granola bar, chips, cookies, crackers, low-fat versions of dairy. It could be the bun on a fast food burger or french fries. So you want to replace those refined and ultra-processed foods with extra animal foods. I'm talking specifically about extra animal protein. That's it. Just make that one switch. You can keep most of your diet. You don't have to drastically change your entire life. Again, I'm all about keeping things simple. Just use the same template that you have. Let's say you like chicken for your animal protein. For starters, I hope you're eating the entire chicken and not just the chicken breast. I'm talking about the skin and the dark meat, which is way tastier. Hopefully, you're eating some of the organs like the heart and the liver, which are the most nutrient-dense parts of the chicken. Hopefully, you're making some broth from the bones to get some much-needed collagen and extract some essential nutrients. You want to use the entire bird. Basically, you want to honor that nose-to-tail concept that we evolved with. And you can still see that behavior with hunter-gatherers like the Hadza in Tanzania. They treat organ meat like gold, especially the liver. I mean, they even eat brain. They also drink the blood. And they don't suffer from diseases of civilization like obesity, diabetes, cancer, or cardiovascular disease. I also like leading by example, so if you haven't seen my YouTube shorts of me drinking beef liver juice and eating bison heart for the first time, you gotta check it out. Eating organ meat is also a big part of a lot of third world countries. Like you can find an assortment of them if you sample the local street food scenery. I personally love chicken intestine whenever I go to the Philippines. And according to my mom, I used to be obsessed with eating chicken feet when I was a kid. But basically, if you love chicken, just eat more of that. Double your protein while subtracting the refined carbs. And let me make this very clear. I'm not saying that carbs are bad. Not all carbs are created equal. I eat fruit and raw honey every day. That's why I've completely switched my stance when it comes to carbs. The key is it needs to come from whole food sources, preferably the least toxic plants like fruit, or it needs to be found in a food matrix like raw honey. It's really the empty calories from the refined carbs and refined sugar that you want to eliminate because it short circuits your brain. Mark Schatzker wrote an entire book about that phenomenon called the Dorito effect. Your goal at the end of the day is to become metabolically flexible. It's the holy grail of weight loss and optimal health. I mean, that's what my entire channel is all about. As a quick review, you achieve metabolic flexibility by following a diet that keeps the storing hormone insulin pulsatile and by eliminating industrial seed oils from your diet. This dietary switch I'm asking you to do aligns with that. But let's quickly talk about the first part of the equation. A lot of experts consider insulin to be the master hormone because it's the hormone that controls your body weight. That's why you only want a pulsatile response throughout the day. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, every time you eat, insulin goes up. If insulin is high, you cannot access your body fat and burn it for energy. You just can't. It gets locked away. And out of all three macronutrients, carbs, specifically refined carbs and refined sugar, spike the hormone insulin the most. Protein and fat also spikes insulin, but that's okay because it's preformed insulin and definitely not to the extent that refined carbs and refined sugar does. Protein and fat also trigger your natural satiety hormones like PYY or CCK, so that kind of protects you from overeating. Protein specifically is the most satiating macronutrient, and it also has its thermic effect going for it. 20 to 30% of the calories from protein are spent just digesting it. So if you eat 100 calories of steak, your body only absorbs 70 to 80 calories of it. Steak is also delicious and it's extremely satiating. That's why not all calories are created equal. Whereas if you open a bag of chips, you can just keep eating it. Next thing you know, you're staring at the bottom of a family-sized Dorito bag. Hey, maybe you are a family. Again, that's called the Dorito effect. So as you can see, it's the refined and ultra-processed, highly palatable, industrial seed oil-laced carbs that I'm really talking about here. It's not uncommon, for example, for the average American or somebody who's following a Western diet to consume a mind-bending 500 to 600 grams of fat-promoting, ultra-processed, and refined carbs every day. They also have a 15-hour eating window, literally their entire waking hours. These are usually foods that you can find at the center aisle of grocery stores. They usually come in some sort of packaging with a really long shelf life. Some of these foods don't even expire. I mean, here's a scary picture of fast food that's 10 years old. There's no mold, it's only the wrapping paper that looks old. I mean, that's kind of scary. And if you still want to eat fast food after that, well, I don't know what to tell you. Again, if we're talking about the 80-20 principle, one of the biggest levers you can pull is to eliminate industrial seed oils from your diet. It's that second part of our metabolic flexibility equation. The problem is, almost all refined and ultra-processed foods are laced with them. Industrial seed oils are more commonly known as heart-healthy vegetable oils. So I'm talking about corn, canola, cottonseed, soybeans, sunflower, safflower, grapeseed, and rice bran, as well as margarine or really anything else that identifies as vegetable oil. They're just insidious oils that you'll find everywhere. For starters, repeatedly heated vegetable oils are associated with high blood pressure, heart disease, and intestinal and liver damage, and obviously metabolic dysfunction. Did you know that as much as 20% of the calories from the standard American diet come from soybean oil alone? And if you're saying that you're not really consuming soybean oil, well, it's in the food that you're eating. This stuff is everywhere. That's why it's so important to read labels. You can bet that 99.99% of fast food joints and even fancy restaurants use this stuff to deep fry their products. I used to bartend at a fancy bar and they definitely use this nasty stuff in the kitchen. They heat and reheat the same rancid oil to cut costs because seed oils are dirt cheap. They actually used to be considered toxic waste until food manufacturers learned how to recycle them. Does that sound heart healthy to you? And if you go to your local grocery store, you'll see that 60 to 70% of all processed, packaged, and frozen foods contain one or more of these insidious health destroyers. You can even find the stuff in baby formula. Scary. Plant-based meat and plant-based dairy substitutes like oat milk and almond milk are often laced with them. When you ingest these refined seed oils, they're not burned for fuel the way other fat generally are because of their unnatural chemical makeup. And the body integrates them into healthy fat cells. So if you have problematic areas that don't seem to go away, the cellular dysfunction caused by vegetable oils is most likely one of the biggest culprits. According to some leading experts, these vegetable oils are basically free radicals in a bottle, literally no different than eating radiation. So throw away your refined vegetable oils and replace them with saturated fat like butter, coconut oil, or lard. We've been using those oils for centuries, and we didn't have the obesity epidemic that we're facing now. You can actually trace the beginning of the rise of obesity and cardiovascular disease when we started introducing these toxic oils in our diet, all the way back to the early 1900s. So I hope you're starting to see the big picture here. When we start messing around with the taste of food, we're messing around with an essential aspect of our 2.5 million years of evolution around it. The information that we sense when we eat, like we might think of it as flavors and deliciousness and all of that, but food is also information. And when food manufacturers mess around with that information, they start to change the way the brain understands food. I mean, think about it for a second. Sweetness used to be hard to acquire back in our caveman days. I mean, think about honey. You have to be willing to get stung by hundreds of bees in order to acquire it. But when we did, the information around honey did not lie. It was sweet. It's delicious. It had calories. Now, let's think about what we've done to food. We use artificial sweeteners and eat food with sugar alcohols, which creates the sensation of sweetness with fewer calories. We put modified starches in food. There's fat replacers in low-fat versions of ice cream and other dairy products. Again, plant-based dairy products are loaded with them. It creates a rich sensation of fattiness when it touches your mouth, but they deliver few calories. We're now consuming fake flavors in food that's specifically designed to fool the brain. But your brain is really smart. I mean, it's only the most complex thing in the known universe, so no big deal. And now your brain, specifically the hypothalamus, has to respond to something that used to be reliable to something that's now unreliable. Scientists call this the reward prediction error. Your brain tastes something and it's predicting a reward in the form of a certain amount of calories to match that taste. And when it doesn't get it, dopamine gets spiked. There's a spike in wanting and craving because the hypothalamus gets confused. That part is especially elevated for people that are overweight or obese. So that should hopefully give you some answers as to why you can't seem to help yourself around food, especially refined food. Again, think about the Dorito effect. As we evolved as human beings, the taste of a calorie matched the energy it delivered. When we eat real food, as we evolved, there was a match that was taking place. I mean, Adam and Eve were tempted to eat an apple, not deep-fried apple pie. So when food manufacturers started to manipulate those calories because they think they can outsmart nature, now there's a nutritive mismatch. We've crossed all these wires with taste and calories. If you ever look at the ingredients list of refined foods, like one of those strawberry flavored yogurt drinks that we love giving to kids, for starters, it'll have something like 16 ingredients, but one of those ingredients will specifically say natural flavors to make it taste like strawberry. Well, there's absolutely nothing natural about a strawberry flavored yogurt drink in a plastic bottle lined with BPA, which is an endocrine disruptor. Same thing with our Dorito example. I keep going back to that because it's literally the perfect example. It's the poster child of all of this. The first iteration of Doritos was actually a flop because it was just plain deep-fried tortilla chips. There was nothing special about it. But when food scientists infused it with natural taco flavor in the form of a powder, the rest, they say, was history. And if you keep eating these nutritive mismatch foods, you're exacting the Pavlov theory. It's with the dogs and the dinner bell if you're familiar with it. And it was a simple experiment. So when the dinner bell rang, the dogs were fed. So the dogs equated the sound of the bell to food. So they start to salivate at the sound of the bell. Scientists then ran an experiment where they rang the bell intermittently. The bell sometimes meant that food was coming, sometimes it doesn't. You'd think that the dogs would just ignore the bell because it's unreliable, right? Wrong. The dogs became obsessed with the bell. The exact same thing happens with the human brain. Hopefully you're starting to connect the dots here. So get rid of these refined and ultra-processed foods and replace it with more animal protein. If you do that, you're 80% on your way to reacquiring the fat-burning metabolism you're born with, which will then enable you to become metabolically flexible. You're not fighting this uphill battle of yo-yo dieting anymore. I'm giving you a way out, which will then enable you to go longer without eating. In doing so, you don't have hunger anymore being the main driver of your day. You're just replacing these empty calorie refined foods that are highly inflammatory and chock full of seed oils with more animal protein. That is the simplest intervention anybody can do. Just increase your animal protein. The problem is we've done the opposite. The average female in the US eats 70 grams of protein and it's 90 grams for men. That's not nearly enough. Add in this growing plant-based narrative to push the masses to eat even less meat because these fake meats have higher profit margins. It's a problem. It's the tyranny of the minority. According to leading protein experts like Dr. Gabrielle Lyon and animal-based diet advocates like Dr. Paul Saladino, you should be eating 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight to optimize body composition. And if you follow them on social media, they walk the talk like they're jacked. Do you see the disconnect between profit and what we're actually supposed to do here? So if you just use a little common sense and increase your animal protein, you're going to be more full, you're going to be satiated for a long time, and you're not going to want to eat crappy food later. So it kind of evens out your food budget here. This is a bit of a hard concept for some people because diet culture is usually based around feeling hungry and smaller meals. No. Again, being hungry sucks. I'm saying eat more animal fat and protein during your meals and feel satiated. If you do that, you'll naturally eat fewer meals. You're just fuller longer and you'll stop snacking. Your natural satiety hormones get activated and you'll just naturally start eating better. According to an NIH study in 2018, if you revolve your diet around whole foods, you'll automatically eat 300 calories less every day. There's your daily calorie deficit to lose weight. The only difference is you're not miserable. And the longer you go without eating because you're satiated, and now you have the added bonus of stable energy and mood, the more time you're giving your body to tap into stored energy, aka body fat. This almost makes too much sense, right? Remember, food is information, not just a mathematical equation. Hey guys, if you enjoyed that video and you want to keep doing a deep dive because there's so much more to learn, then you're gonna love this one. We're just getting warmed up. All right, I'll see you there.